Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to our lecture 12 in the series of the philosophy and leadership of occupational health and safety. In this course, you know very well that we deal with issues of health, safety, and well-being as major attributes of environmental health and safety. And our course is limited to that. Now, if you recall, we have covered a number of topics, right from topic 1 up to topic 5. And last time when we met, we did not complete the coverage of this topic 5, which topic 5 is aligning perspectives and promoting sustainability. And again, as I told you, this topic 5 on your course outline, it appears as topic number 10. So lecture 11 and lecture 12 is based on our topic number 5. In our previous lecture, ladies and gentlemen, I did give you an introduction of this aspect of aligning perspectives and promoting sustainability. In that lecture, I also took you through synergies that can be enhanced in policy and practice. And here we're dealing with a case for developing integrated and holistic approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, we also covered aligning perspectives and mainstreaming health, safety, and well-being at the organizational level. We, unfortunately, we are unable at that level to align perspectives and mainstream health, safety, and well-being at the societal level. This is where we are going to begin. And then, in this lecture, we shall continue with the actions needed for aligning perspectives and mainstreaming health, safety, and well-being. Now, just remind you, in our introduction last time, I told you that health, safety, and well-being are at the core of the workplace. I also said that this concept of health, safety, and well-being are at the core of societal functioning and development. And unfortunately, there is no shortcut. That's what it is. Meaning that we must actually rethink our processes. We must rethink our orientations. We must rethink our philosophies, our understanding of these things, so that we are able to promote health, safety, and well-being at the workplace. And that's why today we are dealing with aligning perspectives and mainstreaming health, safety, and well-being at the societal level. Now, while it is clear, ladies and gentlemen, that the workplace as a setting influences health, safety, and well-being, I must also say that the workplace provides opportunities for disease prevention and health promotion. So it is the organization that can actually put in place mechanisms to prevent illness, so that at the end of the day, we do not have societal costs related to safety, health, and well-being of employees. Now, as discussed in the previous lectures, ladies and gentlemen, a number of strategies for mainstreaming health, safety, and well-being have been successfully implemented in different types of organizations. We also know that while at the macro level, a number of both hard, and here I mean binding, and soft law, which are voluntary policies, have been developed and implemented to deal with this aspect of health, safety, and well-being. And I know these have been developed and implemented by different countries, different international agencies, different national, regional, and sectoral states to ensure that they address issues that relate to health, safety, and well-being, so that they do not actually have those terrible societal impacts at the end of the day. Now, remember that hard law, which is, of course, regulatory standards such as national legislation and the International Labour Organization conventions, ladies and gentlemen, they offer legitimacy, and that's the basis of surveillance and enforcement mechanisms. But also the hard law has been reported to be one of the most important motivators for organizations to implement and engage in issues that relate to health, safety, and well-being. However, as discussed earlier, ladies and gentlemen, a hard law approach promoted alone may have some drawbacks. And let me bring these drawbacks to your attention, because the hard law is there, but they may have serious implications. One, they may have health and safety-related issues. So here, health and safety regulations usually cover traditional health risks, which are considered to be physical risks. And of course, sometimes they also may cover emergence risks, such as psychological or psychosocial, but unfortunately, they only target traditional hazards. And that's why it is important to have the hard and soft, because companies will be able to implement, evaluate, and come up with actions that will be able to implement health-related issues, but being implemented voluntarily by organizations. They are not compelled to implement these things. Now, secondly, ladies and gentlemen, this hard law or the regulatory approach will only be effective where you have surveillance. So if you force organizations to comply, they only do those things when you are there. An enforcement mechanism must be available to translate policy into practice. And where you are not available, then not much will be achieved at the end of the day. And this is a challenge in most developing countries, as health and safety legislation often does not meet international standards and is often not really enforced, and nobody bothers at the end of the day. And of course, thirdly, there are shortcomings which are related to non-compliance, or what we may call creative compliance. So you have those specific rules, procedures, and so forth, but individuals will selectively pick what they want to implement and even sugarcoat and be able to tell you that we are doing this when in the actual sense they are not doing it. And that is the danger with the hard law that we know as policy, regulation. And even thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, there are shortcomings related to non-compliance, and all these have been discussed, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this material time to show you a diagram. And this diagram demonstrates sustainable development using an integrated approach. And for us to understand what we are discussing, this is the diagram here. I'm sure you can now see the diagram, right? Now, this diagram, as you can see, I've already said, this figure of ours presents sustainable development using an integrated health, safety, and well-being approach. Now, all these, as you can see, there are 3 circles, right? And of course, for some of you who are very familiar with Venn diagrams, this is what is happening, right? Now, this circle here presents what we call occupational health and safety issues. And of course, you have a number of policies like the International Labour Organization conventions, right? Then you have management systems. Then you have laws and regulations. And then, of course, as you move this way, here, you will see that we have WHO. Just a moment here. Here we have laws and regulations. Here we have WHO, Global Plan of Action. Now, this one here is for occupational health and safety issues. So where you have all these things here. Right, but remember, the occupational safety and health issues overlap with what we call responsible business practices. And you can see this circle here. And also overlaps with issues of human rights. Now you can see there are points of intersections between occupational safety and human rights, and these deal with issues of the Seoul Declaration and Istanbul Declaration. Right, and at the same time these ones here have an intersection with responsible business practices in terms of sustainable development goals. Now the sustainable development goals, as you can see here, were developed during the 2015 United Nations, right? And all these were passed. So you have sustainable development goals at the center here, right? Of the three circles there for responsible business practices and the human rights and so forth. Now, during your free time, I want to invite you to study these things. I'm sure you can see them. Can you see these letters here? Can you see these writings? Right? All these are taken from different conventions, from different agreements, from United Nations, World Health Organizations, and of course, this is from ILO, ETC. This is from Organization of Economic Cooperation, or ECD. Then you have also others which are ILO-related issues. This is GRI, the Global Reporting Initiatives, and these are CSR instruments and tools, so you will be able to see all these things and understand those things very well, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, looking at this aspect here, we understand, as depicted from this diagram here, that the policy arenas relating to occupational safety and health and the responsible business practices and human rights all seek to promote sustainable economic and human development. So that is what you have there. Now, each of these three components here that you see also overlap with one another, as evidenced through initiatives such as the Seoul and Istanbul Conventions here. Those are Istanbul Declarations, which seek to align health and safety policy with human rights. Therefore, there are clear opportunities for policymakers, as you can see, to align both regulatory and other policy approaches on occupational health and safety with regulatory mechanisms to protect and promote human rights, as well as standards to promote responsible business practices, which can not only help in optimization of resource use, but also promote health, safety, and well-being higher up the policy agenda. As you can also see from here, aligning and mainstreaming policies across these areas is essential for realizing the sustainable development goals. In fact, if you look at all these aspects there, they are integrated in sustainable development goals. And in the previous lecture, I did highlight those things right from SDG 3, SDG 4, SDG 5, SDG 8, SDG 10, SDG 12 upwards. So those are issues that we discussed. And we can also see here the interlinkages and integrated nature of the sustainable development goals, which are of crucial importance in ensuring that the purpose of this new development agenda is achieved by United Nations. And of course, it's a framework that all countries aim at achieving in 2015. So ladies and gentlemen, that's what I wanted to show you in the diagram so that you understand what we are talking about. Now allow me to proceed and talk about actions needed for aligning perspectives and mainstreaming health, safety, and well-being, but specifically talking about future directions. And here I'm going to summarize these issues, ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time. Future directions, how are we supposed to move? What actions are needed for us to align the perspectives and mainstream health, safety, and well-being? Ladies and gentlemen, we know that health and safety statistics clearly indicate the need to promote health, safety, and well-being, as well as to urgently build the capacity and capabilities of ensuring that we implement regulations and those specific sections of the international conventions, agreements, like the ones I've just shown you in the previous diagram that you've just seen. But we also know that health, safety, and well-being is no longer an employee for just employers to consider. So nations, other stakeholders like the consumers, contractors, suppliers, community members, health and safety welfare professionals and practitioners and researchers must be involved in this initiative. So the stakeholders are major forces of change in their respective organizations, and they must come together and discuss and implement this and more that we are talking about, so that we understand the link between sustainable business practices and what we call health, safety, and well-being of employees at the workplace. Right, so let's briefly look at the actions needed by a few of these stakeholders. So actions needed by policymakers and regulators. So what are those actions? Now, considering the growing evidence of the enormous loss and suffering caused by occupational injuries, diseases, and ill health across many different employment sectors, then it is important for countries, policy makers, and regulators to be on the alert. And therefore, they should use these documents that I've just talked about in this diagram here to ensure that they implement those things. For instance, they can look at the Seoul and Istanbul declarations, and we saw that that was an interaction between the human rights and occupational health and safety. Then they can also look at that recognition from the Hilgert report of worker health, safety, and well-being as a fundamental human right. So it is very important for us to consider those things. I think I will not really spend too much time on that because we know governments are supposed to do. And I told you in Uganda, we've got the occupational safety and policy document, of course, the Act of 2006, and you need to revisit or visit that document and read and understand. So briefly, let's look at the actions needed by managers and workers. So for managers in most organizations and workers, they don't see the link between health, safety, and well-being and business strategy. So that means that we must bring sense at the organizational level, really through the sensitization process or program, so that they understand that health, safety, and well-being can support the organization's core activities, and of course, at the end of the day, produce results. Now, the other thing which is very important and critical at this point is for managers and workers to take steps to overcome barriers in these organizations that prevent them from taking up the health, safety, and well-being measures. And of course, that's why they need to, and that's why every employee in the organization must be involved. Let's develop their competences, capabilities, raise awareness, include these things in planning and control cycles, strategic plans, etc., etc., etc. And at the end of the day, we hope that we shall be able to achieve results. So ladies and gentlemen, let's now look at actions needed by health, safety, and well-being professionals and practitioners. Of course, when it comes to these fellows, we need research because we do not have sufficient evidence to bring out, for instance, the link between profitability, health, safety, and well-being. And then, of course, we need to develop the skills and competences of the health, safety, and well-being professionals and practitioners so that they are able to put forward their case to management, and management listens to their cause. But we also need to present the business case for workplace health and the soft skills, including leadership, that are very essential and important in this perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to really develop experts in this area, and we need to ensure that the language that is spoken can easily be understood by the various managers of companies and leaders of companies, or the CEOs and so forth. And we also know that very well the complexities at the workplace, the dynamics, the organizational politics, culture and so forth must be reoriented to think about this concept of health, safety and well-being. And of course, the complexities and the uncertainties and ambiguities of the changing world of work also pose significant challenges for health, safety, and well-being professionals and practitioners. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at actions needed by health, safety, and well-being researchers. And that's where we shall end, and I will conclude. So the actions are very simple. One, mainstreaming health, safety, and well-being into business processes and operations require an interdisciplinary research. So we need to engage in that area of research and incorporate that cooperation of health, safety, and well-being researchers with the other fellows who are in business and management and economics is very important. And therefore, the interdisciplinary approach here will provide a clear understanding of what we mean and what we want. But also institutionally, it requires the involvement of business schools, because it's the business schools that train these managers and leaders. And it's important further to clarify that the parallel interests of the health, safety, and well-being officers and the business objectives must be aligned. In other words, at the end of the day, we should not see this sort of situation where a health, safety, and welfare professional pulls in this direction, and then the CEOs and the other heads of departments also pull in the other direction. So that's why health, safety, and well-being must be embedded in the strategies of the organization or the strategic plans of organizations. So creating synergies then becomes very important. Then we need also to engage research in the area of leadership, health, safety, and well-being, and also be able to convince people that you can still have inspirational leadership in health, safety, and well-being, and how this can be combined with good health, safety, and well-being planning and the development of health, safety, and well-being targets and strategies. Commitment strategies for health, safety, and well-being are also very important. In fact, there is little research in this direction, and therefore this area needs to pick up by convincing researchers and organizations funding researchers to undertake research in this direction. And we also know that organizations are constantly under change, which implies their complexities, different processes, and many things taking place. Therefore, it is relevant to undertake research to understand the constantly changing nature of the organizations and also develop more generally accepted health, safety, and well-being research methodologies. Because the traditional approaches may not be sufficient to explain the complexities at the workplace and then be able to understand business sustainability concepts being integrated in the operations of businesses. And of course, we also know even chaotic situations is certainly a major contribution required from health, safety, and well-being researchers. So we need to think about those things, ladies and gentlemen, and allow me at this material time to come to the end and conclude our discussion of this important subject of sustainable business practices and linking it to health, safety, and well-being of employees. So, ladies and gentlemen, in lecture 10 and in lecture 11 and lecture 12, we have introduced the concept of sustainable business practices. So, in conclusion, the lectures, or these two lectures, have presented evidence, perspectives, approaches, and the case for prioritizing health, safety, and well-being in organizations and societies as well. In these two previous lectures, we have also advocated for better alignment of perspectives and promoting both responsibility of key actors in this area and promotion of health, safety, and well-being as human rights. From the diagram that I showed you a few minutes ago, I did show you the integration and, of course, the intersections of those conventions and agreements, and, of course, what businesses need to do in terms of sustainable business, and, of course, health, safety, and well-being, and what you get from other perspectives. So in these lectures, we have also highlighted opportunities in the current policy and practice landscapes. We have also highlighted how synergies can be developed by bringing stakeholders together and moving away from silos to address health and health, safety, and well-being holistically. And of course, this requires a reorientation of parts of the health, safety, and well-being in terms of policy, research, and practice community, so that at the end of the day, we realize that we achieve the opportunities for improving health, safety, and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, health, safety, and well-being are and still remain key assets and priorities in every society. And that is a key aspect that we have highlighted. It is also very important to build on the progress achieved by countries, by organizations, by specifically evaluating what has been implemented in these organizations, what has worked and what has failed, and then coming up with innovative approaches of coming up with new ways of dealing with things. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for attending this lecture, and this has been lecture 12. We know that lecture 11 and lecture 12 attempted to cover the topic aligning perspectives and promoting sustainability, and we have covered all those aspects that we said we will be able to cover. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for attending this lecture and for being attentive. And next time when we meet, ladies and gentlemen, we shall be concluding our course. We shall be going into leadership aspects of environmental health and safety, and linking leadership to health, safety, and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. Please stay home, stay safe. I wish you a nice time. Let's meet next week for lecture 13. I wish you a nice time. Bye.